Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the I-75 Commercial Vehicle Lanes live virtual meeting. I'm Davita Knight, and today we will begin by sharing project information, followed by a live question and answer session with our project team. To reduce the risk of background noise, all lines are muted. We will be using the Q&A feature to collect your questions and provide live responses at the appropriate time. The Q&A button can be found in the middle of the lower menu in your Zoom window. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. For our online viewers, bandwidth will impact your experience, so be sure to have strong Wi-Fi or a reliable wired connection. If the audio breaks up, sometimes it helps to leave the meeting and rejoin through the same link you clicked to get here today. You can submit questions through the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the screen. If you experience difficulties and are unable to join us online for this meeting, please join us for an audio-only experience by calling 1-888-788-0099 and entering the webinar ID 958-0230-4417 and passcode 958704. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the project's website. If you missed any of the content or questions, be sure to view the provided recording. Finally, we ask that all elected officials use the Q&A feature to let us know that you were able to join us. Please send us your name and office in the Q&A for our records. Our guest speaker for today is Matthew Fowler, the MMIP Program Manager. Matthew has worked in a variety of program delivery and planning roles for GDOT over the past 21 years and currently serves as the Planning, Tolling, and Finance Program Manager and is responsible for managing the I-75 CVL project. As Program Manager, Matthew is responsible for scope, schedule, budget, and contract management for this critical infrastructure project, which is part of the larger Major Mobility Investment Program, or MMIP. At this time, I will turn it over to Matthew.
Thank you, Davita. To begin with, I'll give an overview of the Major Mobility Investment Program. The Major Mobility Investment Program projects were identified in 2016 to improve the region by creating additional capacity, improving freight movement, providing operational improvements and efficiencies, enhancing safety, offering more reliable trip times, and decreasing travel times. The MMIP represents significant long-term investment in the state's transportation infrastructure and delivers projects that meet a community need with positive benefits to motorists. The MMIP consists of three major interchange reconstruction projects, 4 major express lane projects, 3 interstate widening projects, 1 commercial vehicle lane project, and 6 improvements on I-285 that have been advanced as part of the program. The project we are going to talk about more later in the presentation is the I-75 Commercial Vehicle Lanes project, which is focused on improving the safety and mobility for all users of the heavily traveled I-75 freight corridor south of shows where the MMIP projects are located. Many of the projects are located around Metro Atlanta, along I-285, up State Route 400, and I-85 north of Atlanta. We have 2 projects near Savannah to widen I-16 and improve the interchange of I-16 and I-95 as the Port of Savannah continues to grow. The I-75 CVL project south of Atlanta on I-75 will construct commercial-only vehicle lanes along I-75 northbound from I-475 north of Macon to the vicinity of State Route 155 near McDonough. This map shows the gravity these projects will have on many of Georgia's metro regions across the state. The MMIP represents significant long-term investment in the state's transportation infrastructure. The projects constructed under MMIP will deliver positive societal benefits at a reasonable cost. A 25-year benefit cost analysis proves the network yields a benefit of $1.10 for every dollar invested. MMIP returns on investments are noted on the screen. Some highlights include a 44% travel time reduction for transit vehicles, 45 minutes in planning time savings, improving travel time predictability and dependability, and a 13% reduction in vehicle emissions due to less congestion and faster travel times. Focusing on freight mobility, the I-75 commercial vehicle lanes are a result of years of studying Georgia's freight logistics, and when completed will ensure the state's competitiveness in the global marketplace for years to come and will facilitate regional growth. On the screen, you'll notice several past freight plans and studies, led initially by GDOT's Office of Planning with the statewide freight and logistics plan, and by GDOT's Intermodal Division with the statewide rail plan. Focusing on the I-75 corridor between I-475 and McDonough, it's important to note that the I-75 corridor is one of Georgia's officially designated freight corridors. In fact, the segment between Macon and Atlanta is the second most significant freight corridor in the entire state, as it receives freight coming up I-75 and I-475 from Florida, which is our state's #1 trading partner, as well as from the Port of Savannah by way of I-16 and from the Port of Brunswick as well. Further, the area around I-75 in Henry County has been identified as a major freight cluster by the Atlanta Regional Commission. In the past 30 years, this area has grown from around 2 million square feet of distribution and warehousing to over 25 million square feet, with much more in store. Preliminary traffic studies predict a substantial increase in traffic volumes on I-75, with between 110,000 to 160,000 vehicles per day, including 35,000 to 38,000 trucks. This corridor experiences an above average crash and injury rate in the northbound direction. With all this movement of freight, combined with significant expansion of the Port of Savannah and continued population growth in Metro Atlanta, traffic volumes, congestion, crashes, and injuries are rising and will continue to increase unless addressed. And now a project overview. The I-75 Commercial Vehicle Lanes project includes the design and construction of commercial vehicle only lanes, CVLs for short, along I-75 northbound from I-475 north of Macon to the vicinity of State Route 155 near McDonough, plus a new auxiliary lane on I-75 between State Route 155 and State Route 20. The proposed improvements involve the addition of 2 non-tolled commercial vehicle lanes. The commercial vehicle lanes will be barrier separated from the existing general purpose lanes and will be located typically along the outside, the east side of the roadway, as depicted in the rendering below, except through the city of Forsyth urban limits, where the commercial vehicle lanes are proposed to transition to the median. Major structure work will be required to accommodate the new commercial vehicle lanes, including 27 new bridges, replacements, or widenings. Lastly, the project will accommodate future direct access ramps to a potential Bethlehem Road interchange in Henry County along I-75. As discussed on the previous slide, the new commercial vehicle lanes will generally be located along the existing outside northbound shoulder, as shown on the bottom of the screen. Within the Forsyth area between State Route 18 and State Route 83, the commercial vehicle lanes will move into the median to reduce impacts to the many businesses and residences located along the corridor. This is depicted on the top of the screen. It should be noted that no mainline work to I-75 is being proposed in the southbound direction anywhere in the corridor, and the existing number of travel lanes will not be reduced in either direction. This project is the first of its kind in the country due to the project being non-tolled truck-only lanes. The commercial vehicle lane project will improve the safety and mobility for all users by separating commercial vehicles and passenger vehicles. The commercial vehicle lanes promote freight mobility from the Port of Savannah and promotes continued economic development along the I-75 corridor. Georgians will benefit greatly from this project by reductions in delay through added capacity, increased safety by separating passenger car and freight traffic, and improved freight mobility, maintaining Georgia's competitiveness and throughout the region. The project will consist of an approximate 41-mile-long new roadway construction alongside existing I-75 that begins just south of the I-475-75 interchange north of Macon and spans through 5 counties. The department has developed a preliminary access and signage plan for trucks to enter and exit the commercial vehicle lanes. The main objective of the plan is to maximize truck utilization in the commercial vehicle lanes, thereby minimizing truck utilization of the existing general purpose lanes without precluding any truck access to the existing service interchanges via the general purpose ramps. This graphic and the following slide graphic illustrate the access points at the southern and northern termini, along with 6 intermediate entrance and exit access points. The project design layouts are now available for viewing in the virtual meeting room. In addition, a line diagram schematic has been developed, which depicts the number of I-75 commercial vehicle lane project improvements, including commercial vehicle lane laneage, number of lanes and location, access points, entrance and exit merge locations, and other required roadway and bridge work. On the screen and on the website, the commercial vehicle lanes are depicted in orange lines. The commercial vehicle lane entrance merges are reflected with blue triangles. Exit merges are depicted with red triangles. Ramps are reflected in green lines, and new I-75 auxiliary lanes are depicted in dark blue lines. Georgia DOT and all highway projects take many years to plan, design, and construct. And once a project is completed, the focus shifts to ongoing operations and maintenance. A transportation project like the I-75 commercial vehicle lanes requires a lot of people to bring the project to life. Currently, the I-75 commercial vehicle lane project is in the project development phase, and we will discuss a number of these current and upcoming activities in the next few minutes. The department is working diligently to complete the concept work by the end of the year following this public information open house. Concurrent with and following the concept development phase for a period of approximately a year and a half, the project team will be focused in on preparing environmental documents needed to obtain federal approval under the National Environmental Policy Act, expected in the third quarter of calendar year 2022. The project is currently anticipated to be procured as a design, build, finance, operate, maintain delivery method with the goal of developer selection by the first quarter of calendar year 2023. Construction is expected to start in the third quarter of 2024, with the commercial vehicle lanes set to open to traffic in 2028. Keep in mind the project schedule is subject to change. Georgia DOT is responsible for reviewing projects and filing appropriate documentation to ensure that all projects comply with applicable federal and state historic preservation laws and regulations. Ensuring that a project's impact on these resources is minimal can make for a potentially lengthy process. GDOT's Office of Environmental Services, including cultural resources, ecology, air quality and traffic noise analysis, and NEPA specialists, continue to develop new methods to streamline the processes. The environmental and design teams and other subject matter experts meet extensively during the concept development phase of a project to coordinate the best design options to avoid, minimize, or mitigate impacts to identified resources. During this phase, the Georgia DOT and the project team will engage with stakeholders, keeping them updated on the status of the project, and conduct public meetings to allow general public and stakeholders to provide official comment and input on the project. Public participation is an integral part of the transportation process and facilitates decision-making that is in consideration of and to benefit public needs and preferences. Public participation brings GDOT closer to the public's vision of ideal transportation in Georgia. To view the most recent project materials, please contact us or visit our public involvement website, as noted on the screen. Once at the website, join the virtual meeting room to explore our displays and videos that we would typically share at an in-person meeting. The type of information that you will be able to find includes project design, potential detours, environmental impacts, including noise and air, potential property acquisitions, and options for submitting a public comment. In the project design virtual meeting room, you will be able to see the design as it stands now in schematic form and through detailed project layout sheets. In addition, a short narrated 3D fly-through video of the corridor improvements has been developed to assist the public in visualizing the work. In the potential detours virtual meeting room, you'll be given information on potential road closures and detours that are needed to build the project and the steps that will be taken by the project team to keep you and the local officials informed. In the environmental virtual meeting room, you will be able to learn about the NEPA Act, air quality, noise walls, and stormwater management practices used to prevent water pollution. In the property acquisition virtual room, you can learn more about the department property acquisitions. Georgia DOT strives to minimize property acquisitions and displacement during a transportation project's design phase. Unfortunately, impacts to property are sometimes unavoidable. As design progresses, Georgia DOT makes every effort to minimize the amount of right-of-way that is needed to the greatest extent possible. Our last virtual room includes the comment form to make an official comment for the public record on the project layouts or potential detours. Your comments help ensure that decisions are made in consideration of and to benefit public needs and preferences. The project displays and plans will continue to be made available on the website noted on the screen. To view the printed concept displays, please visit either of the locations noted on the screen, the Georgia DOT District 3 Area 4 office in Macon, the Henry County Administration Building in McDonough, and also the City of Forsyth City Hall as well. The displays will be available weekdays through December 15th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Georgia DOT representatives will not be staffing these displays. However, you may submit questions or comments regarding the project to 75cvl@dot.ga.gov or call the project hotline at 678-528-7275. While there are opportunities to enter questions in the Q&A during this live virtual event, you can also submit an official comment in one of these ways by December 15th, 2020. All comments submitted will be part of the public record. To share your comments on the project, please visit our website to complete an electronic survey, email the project, or mail your written comments to Eric Duff, GDOT State Environmental Administrator at the Georgia DOT at the address noted on the screen. While many of you may have already visited the project website will also direct you to comment electronically at the online electronic comment format at the address listed here. At this time, we are going to show the project visualization. So give us one moment as we switch over to that. Thank you.
The following is an artistic rendering and animation and may not be representative of the final design of the project. The planned I-75 commercial vehicle lanes, or CVL project, is located within Monroe, Lamar, Butts, Spalding, and Henry counties, spanning from Middle Georgia to the Metro Atlanta area. The project begins with a new commercial vehicle or truck-only ramp from I-75 northbound, south of the I-475 interchange in Monroe County, which is immediately joined by a new commercial vehicle ramp from I-475 northbound. All trucks shall use these ramps to enter the CVL system except those destined for Rumble Road, who must remain on the existing main line or general purpose lanes. Moving north through the project, the P Ridge Road Bridge overpass will be replaced to accommodate the new CVLs below. The replacement of this bridge will require an off-site detour. The two new CVLs will be barrier separated from the existing northbound general purpose lanes, creating separation between the two traffic streams. The alignment of the CVLs shifts towards the outside at the approach to Rumble Road, the first of many interchanges in the corridor. The CVLs will pass under a new bridge built along Rumble Road. Once beyond the interchange, the CVL alignment rejoins the main line once again. The existing Bunn Road Bridge will remain, with modifications, to allow the new CVL facility to fit within its footprint. A ramp from the CVLs to the existing northbound general purpose lanes will be built for local truck access to the 4 interchanges serving the city of Forsyth. All trucks without a Forsyth destination would remain in the CVLs. Just south of the city of Forsyth, the CVLs are bridged over the general purpose lanes and shifted into the median for approximately 3 miles. This transition to the median results in a reduction in impacts to developed properties and businesses. The northbound general purpose lanes will be shifted and reconstructed to the outside to accommodate the new CVLs within the median. The State Route 18 and Juliet Road bridges and interchanges will be reconstructed to allow the CVLs to pass through, but will retain their same general interchange configurations. Portions of North Frontage Road will be reconstructed with the alignment shifted to accommodate the on-ramp from Juliet Road. New I-75 bridges over State Route 83 will be constructed, and interchange ramps will be shifted slightly to make room for the widening roadway. The CVLs then bridge back over the northbound general purpose lanes to resume their course along the outside of the main line. Portions of North Frontage Road will be reconstructed to accommodate the new CVLs in this area. The work on I-75 has minimal impacts to the configuration of the State Route 42 interchange, as the new CVLs will bridge over the existing ramps to and from State Route 42. Retaining walls will be strategically used in constrained areas of the corridor to avoid or mitigate impacts. One such example is at the Monroe County Recreational Complex, where impacts to this regional park will be avoided. A system of ramps will be constructed for trucks to access the existing way station north of Forsyth and later rejoin the CVLs. The first intermediate slip ramp, or merge, into the CVL system is located north of the way station and will be used by all trucks originating from Forsyth. At this point in the corridor, all eligible trucks must be in the CVLs, providing an ideal enforcement area for law enforcement. Immediately to the north is a slip ramp from the CVLs to the general purpose lanes, which will be used by trucks with local destinations to Johnstonville Road and High Falls Road. All other trucks should remain on the CVLs. The alignment of the CVLs shifts towards the outside at the approach to Johnstonville Road. The CVLs will pass under a new bridge built along Johnstonville Road. Beyond the interchange, the alignment of the CVLs rejoins the main line once again. These CVLs can ease congestion and reduce the interaction between passenger vehicles and trucks, thereby reducing the number of incidents. This in turn will improve the reliability of the corridor and reduce travel time for trucks. Similar to the treatment at Johnstonville Road, the alignment of the CVL shifts towards the outside at the approach to High Falls Road. The CVLs will travel under a new bridge built along High Falls Road. Once beyond the interchange, the alignment of the CVLs rejoins the main line once again. A new slip ramp from the CVLs to the general purpose lanes will be used by trucks heading to State Route 36, State Route 16, and Bill Gardner Parkway. All other trucks not destined for these 3 local exits must stay in the CVLs. The High Falls Road Bridge overpass will be replaced to accommodate the CVLs below. The replacement of this bridge will require an off-site detour. The alignment of the CVL shifts towards the outside at the approach to State Route 36. The CVLs will pass below a new bridge constructed along State Route 36, and the northbound ramps will be shifted towards the main line. Once beyond the interchange, the alignment of the CVLs rejoins the main line once again. The existing Caldwell Road Bridge will remain with modifications to accommodate the CVL facility within its footprint. Another intermediate slip ramp or direct merge into the CVL system is located north of Caldwell Road and will be used by all trucks originating from Johnstonville Road, High Falls Road, and State Route 36. The alignment of the CVL shifts towards the outside at the approach to State Route 16. The CVLs will travel under a new bridge built on State Route 16, and the northbound ramps will be shifted towards the interstate. Once beyond the interchange, the alignment of the new lanes rejoins the main line once again. The two new barrier-separated CVLs continue adjacent to the general purpose lanes into Spalding County. The existing Jenkinsburg Road Bridge will remain, with modifications to accommodate the new CVL facility within its footprint. At the Henry County line, the new CVLs are bridged over the Taualiga River to minimize impacts to the waterway. The final intermediate slip or direct merge into the CVL system is located in Henry County and will be used by all trucks originating from State Route 16. The existing Locust Grove Griffin Road overpass and nearby Indian Creek Road bridges will remain with modifications to accommodate the new CVL facility within the bridge footprints. Traffic analysis and studies indicate that these new CVLs should ease congestion and reduce the interaction between passenger vehicles and trucks, thereby reducing the number of incidents. This in turn will improve the reliability of the corridor. Unlike most of the other crossings throughout the corridor, I-75 travels over Bill Gardner Parkway. As such, the CVLs will be bridged over Bill Gardner Parkway and its northbound interchange ramps. The CVLs end near Bethlehem Road by merging the two CVLs into one and constructing a new auxiliary lane that will allow trucks destined for State Route 155 to remain in the outside lane. The intent of this work would be to improve traffic operations for both passenger vehicles and trucks destined for State Route 155. The existing Bethlehem Road Bridge overpass will remain with modifications to accommodate the new CVL facility within the bridge footprint. Separate from this project, the Georgia Department of Transportation is studying a new interchange at Bethlehem Road, PI number 0017182. The intent of this work would be to improve traffic operations along State Route 155 by providing an additional access to and from I-75 between Bill Gardner Parkway and State Route 155 interchanges. More information on this separate Bethlehem Road interchange project will be provided when it becomes available. A new auxiliary lane is planned to be constructed between the northbound on-ramp from State Route 155 and the off-ramp to State Route 20 to alleviate congestion in this area and improve traffic operations. This work concludes the improvements planned for this critical transportation infrastructure project. If you have questions or comments to share about your thoughts on the project, potential design, or potential impacts, please contact the project team at 75cvl@dot.ga.gov or call the project hotline at 678-528-7275. Thank you for watching the concept visualization for the I-75 commercial vehicle lanes, part of the Major Mobility Investment Program.
We will now begin the question and answer session of our event. As a reminder, if you are joining us online, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the screen. Please submit official comments on the project by December 15th, 2020 by visiting our website to complete an electronic survey, email the project, or mail your written comments to Eric Duff, GDOT State Administrator at the Georgia Department of Transportation, 600 West Peachtree Street, Northwest, 16th floor, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. All comments submitted will be part of the public record. At this time, we also ask that our elected officials use the Q&A feature to let us know that you were able to attend. Please send us your name and office for our records. As the moderator, I will read the questions for the project team to respond to. To address as many questions as possible, similar items may be grouped together. We will not be repeating questions and answers until we have been through all questions. If we are not able to give a complete answer today, we will respond in our comment response letter. If your property has been identified for right-of-way acquisition, a member of the project's right-of-way team will contact you at the appropriate time. Please visit our website to learn more about the right-of-way process. Now I will begin with the first question. Matthew, what is the MMIP? Again, what is the MMIP?
Okay, thank you. And before I respond to that, I want to make one clarifying point regarding the location of the layouts. The layouts in the city of Forsyth are located at the Forsyth Welcome Center at 68 North Lee Street, not at City Hall. So you can find those at the Welcome Center down there. The Major Mobility Investment Program, MMIP, is a grouping of projects that are expected to yield significant reduction in congestion along key freight and passenger corridors. The projects add additional capacity, focused on improving the movement of freight and provide operational improvements and efficiencies, along with enhancing safety and decreasing travel times. And you can also find more about the Major Mobility Investment Program on our website at majormobilityga.com as well.
The next question is, how did GDOT come to the decision to end the CVL project at exit 214 on I-75 at State Route 155? Why did you choose not to extend the truck-only lanes up to I-75?
Okay. The northern terminus was chosen, as with all projects, through a cooperative planning process administered jointly by the department and local governments and the MPO and Metro Atlanta, that's the Atlanta Regional Commission. The McDonough area was chosen because of the destination of trucks that are going to that location. And also there is additional capacity north of the 155 area, especially in the northbound direction during the morning peak period with the express lanes. Though those are limited to the cars, there is that additional northbound capacity beginning at that location.
The next question is, what is the project schedule? What is the project schedule?
Okay, so currently, the environmental process is scheduled for completion in Q3 of 2022. A developer, I think the design build team, the contractor, is planned to be selected in Q2 of 2023, and the project would be substantially complete in 2028. Noting that as project development continues, it is subject to change.
Question that has come in is related to traffic. Has GDOT performed any traffic simulation that shows how traffic will be like in and around exit 214 on I-75 after completion of this project? What does it show? Again, has GDOT performed any traffic simulation that shows how traffic, or what traffic will be like around exit 214 on I-75 after completion of this project? What does it show?
Okay, I'm actually going to ask one of our team members, Reza Taromi, to address that. He is our traffic lead. Give Reza a moment.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Reza Taromi. I'm the traffic lead for this project, and I want to thank you for your question. The answer is yes. We have done a traffic simulation for this project with a special attention to the end of the project between exit 212, Hill Garden Parkway, and exit 216, State Route 155. Based on the analysis performed, we anticipate that the project improves the congestion and it reduces the travel time within the area.
Thank you, Reza. Appreciate that.
Okay, the next question is related to the direction of the CDL lanes. Why are you only doing the I-75 northbound lanes? Why not do southbound lanes as well? Why are you only doing the I-75 northbound lanes? Why not do southbound lanes as well?
Okay, for that one, I'm going to ask Chris Jackson on our project team to respond. Chris?
Thank you, Matthew. Traffic projections in the northbound direction show higher crash rates, injury rates, fatality rates, and traffic growth rates than in the southbound direction. Southbound commercial vehicle lanes have not been identified as a project at this time by the Georgia Department of Transportation. Accordingly, there have been no planning or environmental studies nor programming of funding. The I-75 commercial vehicle lanes project, however, will not preclude future improvements or expansion in the southbound direction. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, for the next question. Trucks are already a nightmare here in McDonough. You're planning to have the trucks remerge onto the I-75 right in the most congested area of McDonough. Not a good plan. Even if it was 1 mile of merging, you're going to have a ton more accidents when the trucks are merging with regular vehicles. Trucks are already a nightmare merging at McDonough. You're planning to have trucks remerge onto the regular I-75 right in the most congested area. Not a good plan. Even if it was 1 mile of merging, you're going to have a ton of accidents. So the question is around the merge points.
Okay. For that, I'm going to ask Mike Rushing, our design lead, roadway lead, to address that merge location. Thank you, Matthew. The project is channelizing the truck traffic flow through the use of the commercial vehicle lanes. Throughout the project area, this helps reduce the lane changing and improves the safety issues by providing that separation based on current geometric design standards. The merge area is enough for safe merging of the trucks. Also, since the trucks are merging on the right side of the road, the left lanes are more available for faster passenger cars and reducing that interaction. The project will reduce around 750 fatal/injury accidents and 5,500 property damage accidents during the 20-year design life of this project. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, for the next question.
The typical project section shows 4 lanes northbound and southbound for the areas north and south of Forsyth. Currently, most of that area only has 3 northbound and southbound lanes. Is that an error, or is widening to 4 lanes also proposed?
Okay. No, wherever we have 3 existing general purpose lanes, we'll retain 3 existing lanes, and wherever we have 4, we will retain 4. That was just a generic representation of that area, but same number of existing general purpose lanes will remain.
Okay. The next question is, will North Frontage Road between Highway 83 and Highway 42 be affected at all? Will North Frontage Road between Highway 83 and Highway 42 be affected at all?
Okay. For that one, I'll ask Chris Jackson, the team, to respond.
Yes, the North Frontage Road will be reconstructed from approximately the Christ United Methodist Church to just south of the Quality Inn at the southeast quadrant of the SR 42 interchange. More detail on this can be found on roll plot sheet 8 that's available on the website.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, the next question is, local roads in Henry County
are already overcrowded. The projects will allow more truck traffic from the south. Eventually, this freight will have to be moved north. Will there be substantial investment to local Henry County roads to allow local traffic to move north and south as a result of added traffic, not at the expense of local county citizens?
I think it's important to note that the project is not adding additional truck volume. It's just accommodating the existing and projected future truck volume that will exist already. It's also important to note that where we look at terminating the truck lanes up around State Route 155 McDonough, we do traffic forecasts to make sure that we're not causing an additional congestion problem downstream from that as well. So that is part of the analysis work that we do.
Okay, the next question is, at mile marker 191, will you use the median, which is approximately 10 acres for this project?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Mike Rushing, our roadway lead, to handle that one.
Thank you, Matthew. The design team did evaluate this as an alternative. Currently, the project does not propose to use the median at that location. This was evaluated and determined that using the median in that area would impact additional environmental resources.
Okay, I represent Life Radio Ministries, owner of property north of Locust Grove. We have a 500-foot FCC broadcast tower and FAA approved. The drawings show that this project will take the land we are currently on. That becomes very difficult because the extensive studies, construction requirements, and FAA and FCC approval of any movement of the tower. The possible and proposed Bethlehem Road interchange will require the tower to be moved as well.
Okay, I'll also ask Mike Rushing, roadway lead, to address that one too.
Thank you, Matthew. As may be seen in better detail on roll plot number 23 for the graphics that are on the website, there are red lines on that layout that indicates preliminary estimated right-of-way requirements. Those lines indicate at that particular location, that particular property, a strip take along the frontage of the property. As currently estimated, those acquisitions do not impact the tower or the supporting guys that support the tower. Our project team is aware of this property and aware of some of the sensitive features on this property, and will consider and keep this in mind as the project design evolves to minimize or avoid impact to those sensitive features.
Thank you, Mike.
The next question is, what considerations are being made for the emergency vehicle access to the CVLs? Again, what considerations are being made for emergency vehicle access to the CVLs?
Okay, so gates will be strategically located in the barrier wall to allow the egress and ingress of trucks and first responders as necessary to clear incidents and resume operations. In addition, we are looking at policies right now that will drive ultimately a concept of operations of how the lanes would operate in such a scenario. So we're not at the point yet of fully working through that, but those are some of the activities that are presently underway, is exactly how those matters will be addressed. And we'll also be relying on other facilities, similar type facilities, such as our express lanes that are also barrier separated, to educate that decision making as well.
Okay. What's the reason for putting the CVLs on the outside of 75 rather than in the median, except in Forsyth? Doesn't that take up more right-of-way, mainly at interchanges, and cause more environmental impact than putting them in the median?
Okay, I'll also ask Mike Rushing, roadway lead, to respond to that one too. Mike?
Thank you, Matthew. There are several significant construction costs and staging, maintenance of traffic benefits to maintaining the location of the CVLs to the outside of the existing lanes. Additionally, there are safety and traffic operations benefits for having the ramps to and from the commercial vehicle lanes be located on the right side of the interstate, so that the merging, entering, and exiting movements that are being executed by slower moving trucks are using the right-hand side lanes to make those movements.
Okay, the next question is a general question related to traffic. How will CVL lanes merge into existing lanes at the northern terminus? And what percentage of truck traffic will continue beyond the end of the CVL lanes? Again, how will the CVL lanes merge into existing lanes at the northern terminus? And what percentage of truck traffic will continue beyond end of CVL lanes.
Okay, for that one, I'll ask our traffic lead, Reza Taromi, to address the traffic up around that area.
Well, at the end of the project, the two CV lanes, commercial vehicle lanes, will merge into one lane, and that one CVL lane merges back into the I-75 general purpose lanes. And we expect that pretty much all the trucks from the CVL will continue traveling north.
Thank you, Reza.
The next question is about the location of the CVLs. Why not use the median for the commercial vehicle lanes? Again, why not use the median for the location of the commercial vehicle lanes?
Okay, just a moment, we'll have Mike Rushing with the roadway lead on the team address that one.
Thank you for the question. Again, the location of the commercial vehicle lanes to the outside of the existing general purpose lanes brings construction cost savings advantages as well as maintenance of traffic during construction advantages. Additionally, there are safety and traffic operational benefits for the movements of trucks into and out of the commercial vehicle lanes to occur from the right-hand side lanes of the I-75 northbound direction. The median is being used specifically within the Forsyth area as one of the more developed areas on the corridor to avoid and minimize impacts to developed property, businesses, and interaction with the existing general purpose interchanges, routes entering and exiting.
Thank you, Mike.
The next question is related to noise along the corridor. Will noise barriers be included as part of the project? How are noise barrier locations determined? Again, will noise barriers be included as part of the project? And how are noise barrier locations determined?
Okay, for that, I will ask Miles Kemp, our noise specialist, to respond. Miles?
Thank you, Matt. So the noise impacts and consideration for noise barriers are currently being assessed as part of the noise impact assessment. Again, that's going to be currently underway. As a result of the findings of that assessment, we will know which locations along the proposed project are expected to be impacted by traffic noise. For those locations that may be impacted, we will have to ultimately consider whether or not any sort of noise abatement or mitigation will be a feasible option to consider. Once we have that noise impact assessment completed, we will know where those barriers may ultimately meet GDOT noise policy criteria. The findings and availability of that assessment are expected to be available to the general public prior to the public hearing open house, which is expected to be held, I believe, in the fourth quarter of 2021. Please note, however, that once that information is available, it will be preliminary in the sense that it is based upon a preliminary design and is subject to potential changes as the design is finalized.
Thank you, Miles.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that have come in related to right-of-way. Will GDOT be staying within the existing right-of-way for the project? Will GDOT be staying within the existing right-of-way for the project?
It will depend on the location, but there are definitely some locations where we will need to acquire additional right-of-way within the corridor.
Okay, a follow-up question that has been submitted related to right-of-way is what is the time frame for right-of-way purchase? What is the time frame for right-of-way purchase?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Phil Copeland, our right-of-way team lead, to address that.
Thank you, Matthew. As others have mentioned earlier in the presentation, the environmental approval is anticipated in the third quarter of 2022. Typically, after the NEPA decision has been made, the right-of-way acquisition will begin. So that would be Sorry, I was muted, so I'll start over again. As Matthew and others had mentioned earlier, the environmental process is anticipated to be completed in third quarter of 2022. That is typically the time when right-of-way acquisition activities do begin. However, the project team and the department will explore opportunities for early acquisition along the corridor for any opportunities where property currently may be listed for sale under redevelopment, or if there's a typical acquisition that may require an extended period of time to complete.
Thank you, Phil.
We have a question that has come in related to lighting. What is the plan for lighting along the corridor with this project? What is the plan for lighting along the corridor with this project?
Okay, for that one, I will ask Mike Rushing on our roadway lead to take that.
Thank you, Matthew. In response to the question, a lighting study will be performed within the corridor to evaluate not only existing lighting conditions, but also determine necessary locations for new lighting along the commercial vehicle lanes and the new proposed access points for the commercial vehicle lanes. Proposed lighting within the project is anticipated at these key decision point locations and studied to match existing lighting system patterns that currently exist within the corridor to maintain the existing lighting characteristics. Certain locations of existing lighting will be impacted by the project improvements. Those impacted locations will be replaced to current standards. Ingress and egress for the CVLs are anticipated to be lighted. And new bridges over the CVLs will be evaluated for their proximity to urban areas, pedestrian usage, and bridge length to determine the need for lighting on those new structures.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we have a question that has come in related to access. Was direct access to State Route 36 from the CVLs considered, since it's a frequent exit for trucks? The state currently owns the empty land adjacent to 75 and north of Truck Stopway that could be converted into direct exit on-ramps as part of the state prison there. So was direct access to State Route 36 from the CVL lanes considered?
Okay, and I'll ask Chris Jackson on our project team to address that.
Okay. Direct access CVL only interchanges were indeed considered, but would result in significant additional impacts to right-of-way, environmental, as well as construction costs. Further, the traffic modeling confirmed that the existing interchanges would provide an acceptable level of service, allowing us to use intermediate slip ramps to allow trucks to use the existing service interchanges.
Thank you, Chris.
We have a question that has come in regarding signage along the project. Will there be signage for the CVO lanes at the Forsyth Way Station, specifically entrance and exit signage? Will there be signage for the CVO lanes at the Forsyth Way Station, specifically entrance and exit signage?
All right, and for that one, I'll ask Mike Rushing on our roadway team to address it. Mike?
Thank you, Matthew. Yes, there will be overhead guide signing along the entire CBL project, and specific to the Way in Motion station. There will be signage similar to the existing signage that exists on the general purpose lanes today in the vicinity of the way station.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we have a general question that has come in regarding the funding for this program. Are my tax dollars being used to fund this program? Are my tax dollars being used to fund this program?
Yes, Georgia DOT and all the roadway projects that we construct are funded with both federal and state gas tax dollars. And we continue to make investments in the state's transportation network to increase capacity and improve freight movement with those funds as well. The selection of the projects as part of the Major Mobility Investment Program were identified based on the ones that returned a significant investment on those funds as well, resulting in a travel time savings of $3.28 billion over time and 44% reduction in travel time for transit vehicles up in the metro area, along with a general 45 minutes in trip planning time savings across all projects. Yes, thank you.
The next question is related to pedestrians. Is there an opportunity to provide walking or biking connections within the project limits? Is there an opportunity to provide walking or biking connections within the project limits?
Okay, so the majority of the project is located within the right-of-way of the interstate. And so as that being the case, there's not an opportunity to accommodate pedestrians, but on some of the crossroads that we might have to reconstruct, we would be looking at pedestrian warrants and needs in those locations.
Okay, here's another question that is around the type of technology that will be offered on the project. Is there any consideration of smart vehicle technology for the corridor? Is there any consideration of smart vehicle technology for the corridor?
Okay, so one of the project goals is to facilitate future connected and autonomous technology in the corridor, and provisions will be made to the extent that we're able to in the commercial vehicle lanes for the seamless integration or accommodation of future technologies, again, to the extent that they are known at this point in time.
Okay, this is a question related to the access. Why would the project end, the terminus of the project, why would the project end at State Route 20 instead of extending to I-75? Why would the project end at State Route 20 instead of extending to State Route 675?
Okay, I think this is a little similar to an earlier question we did receive. And we looked to terminate the project in the McDonough area in that location because of the destination of the trucks to all of the warehousing and freight intensive uses there. And also north of that location, we do have the express lanes, which during the morning peak period operate in the northbound direction, adding additional capacity. So there is additional capacity in the northbound AM peak period and other times that it's operating in the northbound direction as well, north of that point. And it's probably also worth mentioning again that as part of our traffic forecasting, we work to make sure that wherever any project terminates, that we're not creating a downstream congestion problem as well.
Okay, we have a question that has come in related to environmental. What exact environmental issues at mile marker 191? What are the exact environmental issues at mile marker 191?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Todd Hill, our environmental lead, to address it. Todd?
Specifically in that area, there are several wetlands and there is also one large stream. And that stream, if you're familiar with the area, it's actually identified as Red Creek. That creek flows through the median at this location. It's actually about 30 feet wide, so it's definitely a rather large stream. Red Creek has also been determined to provide suitable habitat for the state protected Altamaha shiner, which is a fish. And by keeping the CVLs to the outside in this area, we were able to minimize adverse effects to these sensitive environmental resources.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, the next question is related to billboards on the project. I have a couple of billboards and a cell tower on my property. From the roll plots, it is not clear whether they will be impacted. How and when do I find out one way or the other? Again, I have a couple of billboards and a cell tower on my property. From the roll plot sheets, it is not clear whether they will be impacted. How and when do I find out one way or the other?
All right, Mike, would you respond to that one, please?
Sure, thank you. If the design team would like to ask the commenter to please provide a parcel number for that specific property in question. The parcel numbers are indicated on the roll plots. You'll see a red rectangle with a unique number for affected properties in the on those roll plots. You can provide that parcel number. We can look into that question specifically, and a representative of the project team will follow up with you directly on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, the next question is related to accidents. What happens if there is an accident in the commercial vehicle lanes? What happens if there is an accident in the commercial vehicle lanes?
Okay, I think this was partially addressed earlier with emergency access as well. There's 2 lanes up until the northern end, and where it has a full shoulder as well to allow trucks to continue through in the event of an accident. If there were to be an accident or any other incident resulting in a complete blockage, the lanes can be closed down at the entrance point and trucks rerouted down there prior to getting into the lanes, into the general purpose lanes. And like mentioned earlier, emergency access gates will be strategically located throughout the corridor and the barrier wall to allow for access in and out of such incidents. And we'll also be exploring policies and approaches involving first responders and others as appropriate as well to develop a full concept of operations to handle such incidences.
The next question is related to use of the CVO lanes. Who can use the commercial vehicle lanes? Again, who can use the commercial vehicle lanes?
Okay, the use will be limited to commercial vehicles with more than 6 wheels And the trucks would be required to use the lanes unless they have a local pickup or drop off, at which point they could travel in the existing general purpose lanes.
All right, we have another question that has come in related to the financing for the project. Why is a private entity financing and maintaining the facility? Why is a private entity financing and maintaining the facility?
Okay, so we are taking a public-private partnership approach with the project, which allows the developer to take on some of the risk of final design, which will hopefully drive down some of the cost of constructing. It'll also allow the developer to take into account longer-term maintenance cost as well, which we believe will also result in some cost reductions on the front end as well, and as on the long term as well. And also by allowing financing over an extended period of time, it spreads out the cost of paying for the project versus paying for it all at once during construction.
Okay, the next question that we have is related to right-of-way. My property is impacted by the project. What is the process for acquisition? My property is impacted by the project. What is the process for acquisition?
Okay, for that, I'll ask our right-of-way team lead, Phil Copeland, to respond.
Thank you, Matt. If your property is identified on the roll plots as potentially being impacted by right-of-way acquisition, I would encourage you to visit the right-of-way virtual room, and there is a right-of-way brochure that you can download that will outline the right-of-way procedures that the department follows in not only identifying the property, appraising the property, and also acquiring the property. Also in the virtual room, there is a pamphlet that will break down the right-of-way acquisition process into about 5 steps, and it will outline what goes on in each one of those steps and the typical duration that it takes to complete each step and the property owner engagement during each one of the steps in the process.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay, we have another question that has come in related to noise. I am concerned about impacts to air and noise quality from the trucks. What is GDOT doing to avoid or minimize impacts to air quality and noise? I am concerned about impacts to air and noise quality from the trucks. What is GDOT doing to avoid or minimize impacts to air quality and noise?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Miles Kemp, our noise and air specialist, respond.
Thank you again, Matt. As I mentioned earlier, the noise impact assessment is currently underway to ultimately assess the projected effects that the project would have in the realm of traffic noise and traffic noise impacts. Again, in regards to traffic noise impacts, should we find any resources along the project corridor that are expected to experience a traffic noise impact in the project design year, we would have to ultimately consider whether or not any noise mitigation methods, particularly noise barriers, would be feasible and reasonable to construct. In regards to air quality, we are also following the federally required National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, process to assess potential air quality effects the project may have throughout the corridor. Again, the findings of those analyses are expected to be available to the public prior to the public hearing open house in late 2021. And I believe that should be about it.
Thank you, Miles.
For those that may have just joined us, I would like to remind you how you can submit questions. You can submit official questions through the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the screen. Please submit official comments on the project by December 15th of 2020 by visiting our website to complete an electronic survey, email the project, or mail your written comments to Eric Duff, GDOT State Administrator at the Georgia Department of Transportation, 600 West Peachtree Street, Northwest, 16th floor, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. All comments submitted will be part of the public record. We ask that all elected officials use the Q&A feature to let us know that you were able to attend. Please send us your name and office for our records. So now the next question that has come in is related to a general question about the project. What is the project? Just would like to better understand what is the project.
Okay. The commercial vehicle lane project involves the construction of 37 miles of 2 new barrier-separated northbound commercial vehicle lanes along I-75. It begins north of Macon at the I-75-475 interchange and extends north to around State Route 155 Bethlehem Road area in Henry County. There's also 3.5 miles of auxiliary lane. That'd be an additional lane built going up to 155 from where the commercial vehicle lanes merge back into I-75, and an auxiliary lane from the 155 northbound on-ramp to the State Route 20 northbound exit ramp.
Okay, we have a question that has come in related to the project and what determines a success. If the I-75 CVL project is a success, will there be consideration for a CVL lane on the I-75 south in the project limits? If the I-75 CVL project is a success, will there be consideration for CVL lanes on the I-75 southbound side?
So while there are no planned improvements southbound to add commercial vehicle lanes along I-75, certainly the success of any project would spur additional thought and conversation on potentially pursuing that solution elsewhere. It would come through the transportation planning process, which is a cooperative effort between Georgia DOT, local governments, and regional governments. And transportation planning is an ongoing activity. And so it's one item that could be revisited and considered in future plan updates.
How does this project tie into the I-16, I-75 upgrades already taking place in Macon-Bibb? How does this project tie into the I-16, I-75 upgrades already taking place in Macon-Bibb?
Okay, so this is located several miles north of the I-16 and I-75 interchange reconstruction down in Macon. So while they don't necessarily touch each other, they are several miles apart. They definitely do complement each other in improving mobility throughout this entire section of Middle Georgia where both of them are located.
Traffic gridlock is a major issue along the I-75 south and northbound through Henry County. What benefits are the CVLs to Henry County? Again, traffic gridlock is a major issue along the I-75 south and northbound through Henry County. What benefits are the CVL to Henry?
So certainly adding capacity with the commercial vehicle lanes within the limits of the project would be a benefit in reducing congestion, along with the addition of the auxiliary lanes up to State Route 20. However, they are not identified as the ultimate solution for all mobility needs within Henry County and then on up to Clayton, and then also sections further south as well. But they will have benefits to reducing congestion within the limits of the project.
The next question is related to traffic. With the volume of trucks on I-75 northbound, do you expect the truck traffic in the CVL as it merges from 2 lanes to 1 lane prior to its north terminus to slow, bottleneck, and increase the travel time for the truck drivers? Again, with the volume of trucks on I-75 northbound, do you expect the truck traffic in the CVL as it merges from 2 lanes to 1 lane prior to its north terminus to slow, bottleneck, and increase the travel time for the truck drivers?
And for that one, I'll ask Reza Taromi, our traffic specialist, to respond. Reza?
At the end of the project, as question mentioned, we are reducing the number of lanes from 2 lanes to 1 lane. So basically, we're merging 2 lanes to 1 lane. And for that, we followed the geometric design guidelines, and we believe it's enough and safe for adequate merging. Also, traffic simulation shows no bottleneck buildup or increase in travel time within that merged area. So basically, in other words, that merged area is enough for safe merging, and there is no bottleneck buildup.
The next question is related to access at the interchanges. Is access provided to all interchanges to and from the commercial vehicle lanes? Is access provided to all interchanges to and from the commercial vehicle lane?
Okay. And for that one, our traffic studies have shown that roughly 90% of all commercial vehicles in the corridor are destined for locations north beyond there. But those trucks with a destination along the corridor will have access to all the interchanges in the corridor via slip ramps connecting from the truck lanes, the commercial vehicle lanes, back into the general purpose lanes. And we'll also have signing at those locations to provide proper wayfinding for the truckers to find their ways in and out as they travel as well.
The next question is related to the Bethlehem Road interchange. What is being built at Bethlehem Road? Again, what is being built at Bethlehem Road?
So at this point in time, GDOT's not building anything today, but we are studying the potential for a new interchange along I-75 at Bethlehem Road in Henry County. The thought is that the interchange would provide access in all directions to the existing general purpose lanes, and that we could also provide a northbound exit from the commercial vehicle lanes to Bethlehem Road. However, Bethlehem Road interchange is not part of this project or part of the major mobility investment program in general. And as we continue to explore it, more information will be made available. And at some point, I would assume that we would have a public information open house on it as well.
Okay, we have a question that has come in related to the location of the CVLs. If the entire project would have gone outside of existing I-75, then the traffic would not have any issue, but since it is using median lanes in Forsyth, it would create unnecessary traffic hassles for the general public, forcing them to avoid the area during construction, which would affect businesses in the area. What is the solution? That was a long one. Let me repeat that again. If the entire project would have gone outside of the existing I-75, then the traffic would not have any issues. But since it is using the median lane in Forsyth, it would create unnecessary traffic hassle for the general public, forcing them to avoid the area during construction, which would affect businesses in the area. What is the solution?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Mike Rushing, our roadway team lead, to respond. Mike?
Thank you, Matthew. The team evaluated the alternative for a bypass route within the Forsyth area. The bypass route would add mileage to the freight traffic that's trying to traverse the corridor because it would use a less direct new location route. It would also impact more property. The bypass alignment would also shift that traffic away from the existing I-75 corridor, requiring the freight traffic to exit that bypass onto local surface roads and then travel towards the I-75 corridor instead of being able to use the existing service interchanges on I-75 in the Forsyth area. As a result of those characteristics, the bypass alternative was not deemed to be effective for the project need and purpose. The staging plan for how the construction of the CVLs through will be executed will be fully developed by the project developer, but it's anticipated that it would be basically a two-stage construction plan where the existing general purpose lanes would be widened to the east first, and then the general purpose lane traffic would be shifted to the east to use that new pavement, opening the median for the construction of the CVLs. Any affected crossroads in Forsyth, such as State Route 18 or Juliet Road, that may be impacted by the construction would be reconstructed while maintaining traffic operation. Local coordination will be ongoing to ensure that those requirements are put into the contract documents for the developer. We do not anticipate any interchanges for the crossroads as part of that construction.
Thank you, Mike.
The next question that has come in is related to right-of-way. How many businesses are being lost due to the project? How many businesses are being lost due to the project?
Okay, for that, I'll ask our right-of-way lead, Phil Copeland, to respond.
Based on the early concept work that has been completed so far, it is anticipated that there will be 2 businesses impacted as part of the right-of-way acquisition. And the business impacts and the property impacts are being minimized by trying to move the commercial vehicle lanes to the inside in the Forsyth area.
A couple of follow-up questions that have come in related to noise. What is considered a noise impact? What is considered a noise impact?
Okay, and I'll ask Miles Kemp, our noise specialist, to respond. Miles?
So for noise impacts, we have what is called the federal noise abatement criteria, which we utilize to assess whether or not impacts are expected to occur at various types of resources. For instance, the noise abatement criteria, or for all intents and purposes, the impact threshold for residential properties is 67 decibels. However, the state of Georgia does observe what we call approaching the impact criteria to be within 1 decibel of that impact threshold. So if we have a sound level that is, or traffic noise level that is projected to be 66 decibels or higher, it would qualify as impacted. So again, 66 decibels is essentially the impact threshold for residential properties, as well as many community resources such as parks, churches, schools, things of that nature. For businesses and commercial properties, the impact threshold tends to be a little bit higher. 72 decibels is the impact threshold or noise abatement criteria. However, again, if we're approaching that impact threshold, it would actually be 71 decibels that will qualify as impacted. Please do note that there is actually what we call a substantial noise increase that would also qualify as impacted, in which we basically will project whether or not a 15 decibel increase due to the proposed project is expected to occur, a 15 decibel increase or greater, rather. However, those cases are fairly unlikely and tend to not occur along already developed roadways, such as, I-75, 475, and the like.
Thank you, Miles.
There are a couple of questions that have come in related to construction staging. Will the interstate be closed during construction? Will the interstate be closed during construction?
Okay, there will not be total closures of the interstate. There might be the need for an occasional lane closure here or there, but the interstate as a whole will not be closed during construction. Again, just temporary lane closures, and those would be targeted for the time periods that had the least impact on traffic, after hours, ideally.
Okay, the next one is related to staging, but more so related to the detours. Will there be detours for work on the cross streets? Will there be detours for work on the cross streets?
Okay, I'll ask Mike, our roadway lead, to take that.
Thank you, Matthew. With regard to detours for work on cross streets during the construction of the project, overpass bridges at Pea Ridge Road and High Falls Road are anticipated to be temporarily closed to traffic so that they can be replaced as required by the construction of the CVLs. Off-site detours are anticipated for these bridge replacements. Prior to a detour going into effect, information will be provided to residents about and local officials about the detour route, and the changes in travel patterns. Directional signs for the detour will also be placed to direct travelers to the appropriate route. Detour routes will not be overly long to minimize the burden for local access in the areas of those closures. And in the examples of Pea Ridge Road and High Falls Road, detour maps are available as part of the online project information materials.
Thank you, Mike.
And the next question is also related to staging construction. Will there be equipment stored during construction, or where will equipment be stored during construction? Where will the equipment be stored during construction?
Okay, for that, I'll ask Chris to respond. Chris?
Sure. Construction equipment will be held at approved designated staging areas chosen for their proximity to the construction site, as well as their ability to avoid or minimize impacts to traffic, the public, and other environmental resources.
Thank you, Chris.
Another question related to construction. What is the order of construction? What parts will be constructed first? What is the order of construction? What parts will be constructed first?
Okay, we are still working through some of those details, and it'll ultimately be determined and formalized through the contract award with the developer. However, at this time, we're considering prioritizing the corridor to be completed from the north to the south. So opening up the northern legs first, followed by the middle and then southern end of the project. But again, that is just under consideration right now.
Okay, so there's a question that has come in related to the public meetings. What level of outreach has been done so far to inform people about the project? What level of outreach has been done so far to inform people about the project?
Okay, I'll ask Chris to take that one. Chris?
So to date, there have been several meetings with both local and state elected officials, including virtual stakeholder meetings held last July. Outreach has also been made to the public in the form of postcards, as well as project website updates.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, there's a question related to the utilities. So are there utilities within the project limit, and how will those be addressed during construction of the project? Are there utilities within the project limit, and how will those be addressed during construction of the project?
Okay, I'll ask Mike Rushing, roadway team lead, to take that one.
There are several utilities located within the project corridor, including water, sewer, electric, gas, communications, and intelligent transportation, ITS facilities existing along I-75. The utilities have been preliminarily identified to date through subsurface engineering, and they'll be further defined and located as design and utility investigation efforts continue over the next several months. Utility coordination is expected to begin in late 2021 with each of the utility companies being involved with our project team to determine the strategy to accommodate their facilities or relocate their facilities within the project limits.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, the next question is related to a hotel building in the corridor. I have one of my hotel buildings that is going to be parallel to this new CVO lane near exit 188, State Route 42, that is only around 50 to 60 feet from guest rooms. And our rooms are are outside facing. Do you think after this, any guests are going to stay in our hotel? Again, I have a hotel building that is parallel to the CVO lanes near exit 188, State Route 42, that is very close to guest rooms. Our rooms are outside facing. So the impact there at the hotel is the question.
Okay, and I think that's probably noise related. So I'll ask Miles Kemp, our noise specialist, to respond to that one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. So for this specific location, if it's running along the project corridor, we will be considering the potential for traffic noise impacts to occur. In our analyses, we do consider hotels as a potentially noise sensitive resource, particularly any outdoor areas of frequent human use, such as patios and balconies. Those would be the primary areas of use that we may consider, along with any kind of communal locations, such as like pools or outdoor areas, maybe in the center of the hotel. So depending upon the layout of the hotel and the location of any outdoor areas, we would consider those as potentially assessed for traffic noise impacts. If they are expected to occur, we will assess for the likelihood of traffic noise mitigation, again, typically in the form of noise barriers. So if ultimately a barrier is found to meet GDOT noise policy criteria for that location prior to final design and prior to construction, and this goes for everywhere along the project corridor that barriers may be considered, we will provide outreach and ultimately the opportunity to vote on any potential noise barriers. So for this location, if there's a noise barrier that ultimately is proposed, we will extend the opportunity to the property owner and potentially the hotel management, depending upon who the point of contact is, but most likely the property owner to ultimately provide a vote or input on the desire for a noise barrier. Obviously, that doesn't completely address, proximity concerns and has its own concerns relating to, visual impacts, but that is ultimately part of the consideration that we ask for, the input on noise barriers. So.
Thank you, Miles.
Okay, if a regular vehicle accidentally gets into the commercial vehicle lanes, would they get a ticket? If a regular vehicle accidentally gets into the commercial vehicle lanes, would they get a ticket?
Short answer, yes. However, we will have regulatory signage up there to make it as clear as possible to convey to passenger vehicles that they are not to be traveling in the commercial vehicle lanes.
Okay. Will there be a concept plan for the new exit 214 Bethlehem Road in Henry County? Will there be a concept plan for the new exit 214 Bethlehem Road in Henry County?
There will be, but it'll be part of a subsequent and separate effort from this project, but it's something that the department is beginning right now to explore.
Okay, we have a new question that has come in. I know we've touched on this a little earlier about the location of the CVO lanes. Why not use the median for the commercial vehicle lanes? Why not use the median for the commercial vehicle lanes?
Okay, and for that, I'll ask Mike Rushing on our roadway lead team to take that. Mike?
Thank you, Matthew. I do think we addressed this previously, but for anyone who may not have been on at that point, there are construction cost advantages and constructability advantages, maintenance of traffic advantages to maintaining the commercial vehicle lanes along the outside of the existing general purpose lanes. Additionally, there are safety and traffic operational benefits for having the ramps that are accessing to and from the commercial vehicle lanes to be located on the right-hand side of the interstate to accommodate the merging and weaving and exiting and entering movements and the slower moving trucks while keeping the left lanes more clear for faster traffic. The median is specifically being used within the Forsyth area to avoid impact to developed property, operating businesses, and to also eliminate interaction between the CVLs and the cluster of existing interchanges, four closely spaced interchanges specifically serving the Forsyth area.
Thank you, Mike.
And there was a similar question that came in earlier related to this, but this may be someone new that has joined. Why are there no improvements planned in the southbound direction? Why are there no improvements planned in the southbound direction?
Okay, so the northbound direction does have an increased rate of unreliability and accidents within the corridor. And so that's why northbound was identified. Nothing that is being constructed, though, would preclude a future southbound commercial vehicle lane, though.
Okay. Is there a toll to use the commercial vehicle lanes? Is there a toll to use the commercial vehicle lanes?
No, the lanes would be non-tolled.
Another question related to travel in the lanes. What is the speed in the commercial vehicle lanes? What is the speed in the commercial vehicle lanes?
Okay, Mike, would you take that one?
Yeah, thank you. The commercial vehicle lanes are being designed to accommodate a 70-mile-per-hour design speed. That's basically a freeway interstate design speed standard. So the commercial vehicle lanes would meet the same design, at least meet, if not exceed, the same design standard as in place on the existing I-75 lanes today.
Thank you, Mike.
A question about the interchanges. Are improvements to the existing interchanges being considered? Are improvements to the existing interchanges being considered?
All right, for that, I'll ask Chris to respond. Chris?
Okay. No, the answer is no. The existing interchanges are generally to remain, with the exception of those that need to be modified just to accommodate the commercial vehicle lanes. At these limited interchange locations, all existing operational aspects will be maintained. And based on all studies to date for traffic, there are no apparent safety or operational issues in the northbound direction that would otherwise require these interchanges be improved.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, this question is related to the benefits of the project. How does the project benefit me? I do not drive a truck. How does the project benefit me? I do not
drive a truck.
Okay, the project would benefit all motorists by improving safety and travel time reliability. There would be additional capacity within the corridor in the northbound direction. And then also the project helps support the state's economy and economic competitiveness for the region and the state as well.
Matthew, there's a similar question related to the benefits. How will this project help the truck traffic in the corridor? How will this project help the truck traffic in the corridor?
So it would add capacity dedicated for trucks to additional lanes. And depending on where you are in the corridor, we forecast that 70% up to 100% of the trucks would be in the commercial vehicle lanes instead of in the adjoining general purpose lanes or as they are today.
I am concerned about the trucks getting closer to my house or business. I am concerned about the trucks getting closer to my house or business.
Okay. Of course, we will make every opportunity to minimize property acquisition and relocation during the design phase, but there might be some acquisitions or displacements needed. And we'll try to keep those to a minimum as we work through design. We try to avoid those. But we'll have to make those decisions based on engineering and design work while also taking into account the environmental impacts as well. But definitely trying to keep the footprint as narrow as possible to minimize impacts is a really big goal. And also the information that we're presenting here today, we would hope to get some feedback on it as well. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions that have come in related to environmental items. What are the environmental resources within the project limits that are expected to be impacted? What are the environmental resources within the project limits that are expected to be impacted?
Okay, I'll ask our environmental lead, Todd Hill, to take that one.
So as Matthew has pointed out earlier in our presentation, because this project is being funded by federal dollars, we do have to go through the NEPA process. And that process defines several different areas that we have to evaluate very specifically. In particular, we evaluate ecology resources, which includes wetlands and streams, and also protected species. We have actually identified over 300 water resources throughout the corridor. There are actually no federally protected species. There is habitat for 2 federally protected plant species. So we do have to consider that, and we work with the engineers to avoid those areas that we've defined. Other areas that we evaluate are historic resources, which are basically significant architectural resources that have to be at least 50 years old or older. But just because they're old doesn't necessarily mean they're significant. What we have to consider is whether or not they're actually eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And in this corridor, we have an example of, we have a railroad, and that is actually considered a historic resource. We also have some farm sites that are fairly old, and they are significant architecturally. So those are resources that we have to consider. Other areas are archaeological resources. We have to evaluate sensitive community areas such as parks, churches, schools, and other important community facilities. And those are kind of the broad view of the various environmental resources that we have to consider as we go through the design development process.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. We will try to get to those. Okay, Henry County is considering a warehouse moratorium, passing a warehouse moratorium that stops future warehouses from being constructed in the State Route 155. If this happens, the portion of the project growth and touch traffic will not be exiting but continuing along I-75. Has this impact to the northbound general purpose lanes been considered?
Okay, so we do take into account all planned growth. It's part of our traffic forecasting, and it's data that we collect through the Regional Commission in Henry County. It'd be through the Atlanta Regional Commission, but it's ultimately developed by Henry County. And all of the other counties have similar growth planning efforts as well. And those are the type of activities that we take into account to project traffic. Of course, if changes in land use happens, those would be taken into account as well. But it's also important to keep in mind that other areas are also growing beyond just Henry County within the corridor, in particular down in Spalding as well. So existing growth and future and planned growth is definitely taken into account.
I think we have time for one more here. The managed lanes north of this project are only good if they are open in the direction of travel. If the managed lanes are not operational in the direction of travel, Henry County has the least number of lanes on I-75 than any other metro Atlanta county. With the truck lane addition, there will be 4 lanes funneled down into 3 lanes. If the managed lanes are closed going north, this seems that it will result in traffic bottlenecks in Henry County, as it already does at this time. As mentioned in the previous comment, Henry County needs substantial investments in eastern and western parallel connectors for locals. Will GDOT please consider heavy investments in eastern and western parallel connections to offset the shortage of lanes on Interstate 75. Other metro area counties have more than 3 interstate lanes and parallel connections. While we are thankful for the managed lanes, we should not have to continue suffering here in Henry County due to the lack of the lanes on the interstate.
So while the commercial vehicle lanes are not focused on that need, we will certainly share that with those that are responsible for transportation planning, both within GDOT and the region. It's important to note that all of the counties in Metro Atlanta have a transportation countywide plan that is funded by the Atlanta Regional Commission. And that ultimately identifies major improvements within the county that feed into the region as well. And I believe there is a project within Henry County to construct a western parallel roadway, but we'll need to follow up on that in our official responses to say for sure.
Okay, and our last question for the evening. What % of trucks in TOL will enter general purpose lanes in McDonough? What is the LOS after the 1 lane TOL merged with I-75?
Okay. And for that one, I will ask Reza Taromi, our traffic lead, to respond. Reza?
Yeah, I'm assuming that TOL stands for truck only lane. So in my opinion, TOL is the same as CVL. So at the end of the project, all trucks coming from the CVL will enter the general purpose lanes. And depending on the time of the day, in the worst case scenario, the level of service after that merge will be level of service D or better, which is acceptable.
Thank you, Reza.
As we wrap up the event tonight, I would like to remind you that the project displays and plans continue to be made available on this website. The project website is the majormobilityga.com/projects/I-75 CVL. To view the printed concept displays, please visit either the following locations: the Georgia DOT District 3 Area 4 office at 4499 Riverside Drive in Macon, Georgia. That's 31210. The Henry County Administration Building at 140 Henry Parkway, McDonough, Georgia, 30253. And the displays have also been made available at the Forsyth Welcome Center, 68 North Lee Street. The displays will be available weekdays through December 15th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. GDOT representatives will not be staffing the displays. However, you may submit questions regarding the project to 75cvl@dot.ga.gov or call the project hotline at 678-528-7275. Official public comments can be submitted in one of these ways by December 15th of 2020. All comments submitted will be part of the public record. To share your comments on the project, please visit our website to complete an electronic survey. Email the project or mail your written comments to Eric Duff, Georgia DOT State Administrator at the Georgia Department of Transportation, 600 West Peachtree Street Northwest, 16th floor, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. While many of you may have already visited the project website, the project website will also direct you to comment electronically at the online electronic comment format at the address listed here. We would like to thank you for joining this virtual project update for the proposed I-75 commercial vehicle lanes, part of the Major Mobility Investment Program. Stay well and be safe. Good night.